Decades-old mystery. Human remains were found at a building next to the Vatican embassy in Rome.
The Vatican just allowed scientists to access a hidden tomb, one that's been sealed for nearly 2,000 years. Everyone expected to find Roman bones or maybe some lost Christian artifacts.
Human bones were found during a renovation project at the Vatican's embassy to Italy in a residential section of Rome.
But here's the catch. They ran DNA tests on the remains inside, and the results don't make any sense. The genetic code that came back from the lab isn't human. In fact, it's not a match for anything on this planet. We're going to show you the hidden tomb, the strange symbols inside it, and the one DNA test result the Vatican can't explain. The Vatican's anomalous sample. So here's the deal. For decades, maybe even centuries, rumors have swirled about a specific untouched chamber deep in the Vatican necropolis. This isn't the part tourists see. This is the Scavi, the city of the departed, a maze of tombs and old streets right under the main floor of St. Peter's Basilica. Most of that area was explored back in the 1940s. It was a huge discovery. But one chamber, known in the secret archives only as Tomb Theta, was different. It was sealed. Not just closed with a stone door, but sealed with a type of ancient rock-hard mortar and heavy stones. It was clear. Whoever closed this did not ever want it opened, and the Vatican agreed. For over 80 years, they refused all requests to even get near it. Historians, archaeologists, everyone was told no. Until now. In a move that shocked absolutely everyone, a small independent team of geneticists and archaeologists was given a 24-hour window a single day. Their mission wasn't just to look, it was to test. They were given permission to drill one single 1-inch wide hole through the massive stone sarcophagus in the center of the room and extract a bone core sample. What most people don't realize is that getting clean DNA from a 2,000-year-old sample is basically impossible. Genetic material breaks down. It gets contaminated by bugs, by water, by the air, by the first person who breathes on it. But this tomb, as they found out, was an almost perfect airtight time capsule. The sample, no bigger than a piece of chalk, was put in a high-security container and flown to a special lab in Switzerland. This is one of only 3 places on Earth capable of this kind of ancient DNA work. The team was expecting to find what everyone expects to find in a Roman tomb, a typical human genome. They'd run the test, find out he was from, southern Italy or somewhere in Greece, and write a nice historical paper. What they got back was something else entirely. The first report, which was immediately leaked by an anonymous source inside that Swiss lab, was full of technical jargon. But basically, it said 2 things. First, the easy part. The remains belonged to a biological male approximately 40 years old who passed away around the 1st century. They could tell that much. But the second part is the one that has scientists and governments scrambling. The DNA was not fully human. The crazy part is, it looked human at first. It had the right number of chromosomes, the basic structure. It was like looking at a picture of a human. But when they dug into the actual sequencing, the code itself, they found anomalies. Huge, complex gene sequences that were just extra. They weren't just junk DNA, which is the stuff we don't understand. These were long, intricate, perfectly formed sequences that were not junk. They were just alien. They didn't match any known human, animal, or plant on Earth. It was like finding an entire chapter from a different book, written in a different language, stuck into the middle of a sentence. One scientist on the leaked report, and this is a direct quote, called it non-coding but highly structured, and this is the kicker, showing no terrestrial origin. This isn't like finding a new ancestor like a Neanderthal or a Denisovan. That's still in the family. This is something that, genetically speaking, should not exist. It's a biological impossibility. This has led to the first wild theory, the Nephilim gene. People are pointing to old texts, not just biblical, that talk of giants or sons of God who came down and mixed with humans. What if this isn't an alien in the way we think, but one of them? A being that was so powerful and so different they were seen as gods. And what if the Vatican has been sitting on the literal proof of these beings all along? The Vatican, of course, immediately classified the findings. The official public statement was that the sample was too degraded for a conclusive result. but the leak says otherwise. It says the sample was perfect, pristine. So perfect, in fact, that the unknown sequences were still active. That's the word the leak used. Not preserved, active. Like they were humming with potential, just waiting. This leads to the second theory, sentinel DNA. This idea is terrifying. What if the DNA isn't a blueprint for a body? What if the DNA is the message? A biological hard drive, a sentinel left behind waiting for a species advanced enough, like us, to finally sequence it. And now that we've read it, have we triggered something? Is the active DNA now awake? The leaked document wasn't just a lab report, it included a chain of panicked emails. Rerun the test. This can't be right. We must assume contamination. And the final one, from the lab director, all tests confirm the anomaly. We are seeing something artificial. This is the third and strangest theory, the engineered being. What if this isn't a visitor from another world, but a visitor from another time? A human, but one who was genetically modified by a lost, high-tech ancient civilization. An Atlantean, a precursor, someone from a time before our known history, a time that ended so badly, the only thing left is this one engineered being left in a tomb as a warning. The report raises a terrifying question. Who or what was so important that it was buried in the most sacred place on Earth and its DNA isn't from here? The discovery threw the small scientific community into chaos. This wasn't just a historical find, it was a biological one. The Vatican's official story of a degraded sample started to look less like a scientific statement and more like a desperate attempt at damage control. What they found next in the tomb without a microscope was even stranger, unsealing the pre-Christian grave. To really get what a bombshell this is, you have to understand where this tomb was found. This wasn't in a field somewhere, this was in the Vatican Necropolis, a name that literally means City of the Departed. And it's located directly beneath the main altar of St. Peter's Basilica. We're talking about the holiest ground in the entire Catholic faith. This wasn't a sudden find either. The Vatican has been sitting on this secret for over 80 years. Yeah, about that. Back in the 1940s, during a massive top-secret excavation ordered by the Pope himself, they found this necropolis. It was a complete buried Roman street. They found tombs, mausoleums, and crypts from over 2,000 years ago. The goal was to find the resting place of St. Peter, and they think they did. It was a massive win for the church. But they also found something else. This one chamber. Tomb Theta, it stood out. As the archaeologists in the 40s cleared the dirt, they realized something was wrong. While other tombs were clearly early Christian or typical Roman, this one wasn't. The experts who first saw it knew right away. The construction, the materials, the style, it was all wrong. They concluded this tomb dates to the beginning of the 1st century. That's a time when Christianity was just a tiny emerging movement, a small, weird cult. It was not a powerful religion. It had no power, no money, and no land. The crazy part is the location. This tomb is almost directly beneath the main altar of the basilica. That's like buying a house and finding out years later that a different king is buried under your living room. The tomb itself is pure, high-end Roman. The stone, the carving, the layout, it was built for Roman nobility, a rich family from the Empire period. And inside, there was not one single cross. No mention of Jesus. No apostles. No early Christian symbols at all. Instead, the walls were covered in Latin inscriptions with Roman titles and family names. A massive stone coffin, the one they just drilled into, sat in the middle of the room. It was carefully sealed and decorated. Whoever was in there was a big deal, someone with a high social position, but they were remembered in a Roman pagan way, not as a Christian martyr. This discovery, even back in the 1940s, created a huge problem. It suggested that the Vatican Hill wasn't just some random spot. It was already considered sacred long before Catholicism established its center there. This leads to a huge theory, the axis mundi, the world center. This is the idea that some places on Earth are special. They're thin places, an axis mundi, a point where the veil between worlds is weak. What if Vatican Hill is one of those spots? What if this tomb wasn't just a tomb, but was built there on purpose, to guard this spot or to use it? And what if the church, centuries later, built on the exact same spot for the exact same reason, to control this gateway? This would explain the weird construction. What most people don't realize is that the sarcophagus itself is weird. It's not marble. It's carved from a single massive block of dark gray basalt. Basalt is volcanic rock. It's incredibly hard to carve, and it's not from that area. It would have had to be moved hundreds of miles. Why? Basalt is known in many old traditions to have strange energetic properties. Was it chosen to contain what was inside? And then there's the Etruscan connection theory. Before the Romans, the land was controlled by the Etruscans, a super mysterious people. We still can't really read their language. Their origins are a total unknown. What if this tomb is really Etruscan and the Romans just built over it? What if the Etruscans were the ones who knew about the Axis Mundi, and maybe they were the ones who had contact with these other beings? The being in the tomb might not even be Roman. It might be the last relic of this lost pre-Roman culture that knew secrets we've all forgotten. This changes the Vatican's whole origin story. The location may not have been neutral territory. It's possible an older, different spiritual tradition was already using this exact spot. And that idea sucked. Well, that's a direct challenge. The stone layers underneath the Vatican don't just hold human remains. They hide a history that was lost to time, or maybe it was buried on purpose. The tomb in the 1940s was immediately sealed by order of the Pope. The archaeologists were sworn to secrecy. The reports were buried in the archive, until now, but the inscriptions weren't the most shocking part. The symbols told a totally different story, what the symbols really mean. So the scientists and archaeologists are in this tomb. The lack of Christian symbols is weird. The basalt sarcophagus is weirder, but what is on the walls is the real wow factor. It's the thing that connects all the pieces. The tomb contained a bunch of symbols that were the exact opposite of Christian beliefs. On the main wall, there's a detailed artwork, a carving showing a man ending a bull. This scene meant nothing to the Christian experts at first, but historians and archaeologists, their jaws dropped. This wasn't a random hunting scene. This is the central image of an ancient Roman faith called Mithraism. This bull-slaying image, the tauroctony, is the core symbol of the god Mithras. What most people don't realize is that Mithraism was a huge deal back in the day. It was Christianity's biggest rival. It was a mystery religion, practiced in total secret, especially popular with Roman soldiers and the elite. You couldn't just join. You had to be invited and go through 7 levels of initiation. And get this, their followers gathered in hidden underground temples to practice their religion. They called them Mithraea. They were designed to look like caves. Their ceremonies were held in darkness or by candlelight, totally outside of public view. The secrets were passed from member to member but never spoken about in public. Finding this here, directly below the heart of the Vatican, wasn't just unexpected. It was a bombshell. This wasn't just a tomb, it was almost certainly a Mithraeum, a secret temple. But here's the catch. This is where the wild theories just explode. Let's talk about Mithras. He's a solar deity, a god of light. He wasn't born from a person. The myths say he was born from a rock, emerging from it already a man. This has led to the Mithras as an alien theory. What if the entire religion was a cargo cult? A cargo cult is when a primitive culture sees advanced technology and thinks it's magic or gods. What if Mithras was a real person, a visitor, a being who was born from a rock, i.e. emerged from a craft that landed? What if the bull slaying isn't about farming or spring? The bull is the constellation Taurus. What if the image is a star map, a metaphor for him conquering or traveling from the direction of Taurus to get here? This sounds crazy until you look at the other carvings in the tomb. The rock carvings also included something else: zodiac symbols and detailed star patterns. These appeared in almost all Mithraic temples. For years, historians just thought it was, astrology. But the layout in this tomb was different. The star patterns were precise. They didn't just show the zodiac, they seemed to map specific constellations. And not just constellations, but specific points within them, like, "We are from here." This brings us back to the DNA. The team is staring at a genetic code that's not of terrestrial origin, and they're standing in a hidden temple dedicated to a god, Mithras, who was, what exactly? A god of light, associated with the stars. And now they've found remains with non-human DNA in the middle of a star map dedicated to a star god. This isn't a coincidence. It's a breadcrumb trail. This leads to the star map as a timer theory. What if the star map isn't just a where we're from map? What if it's a timer, a celestial clock? What if it points to a specific future astronomical alignment, an alignment that is coming soon? What if the tomb wasn't meant to be opened until this alignment, and we just jumped the gun? Or what if the Vatican knew the alignment was coming and that's why they finally authorized the opening, and the zodiac is a warning theory? What if the zodiac symbols aren't just astrology? What if they are a sequence, a key? The sentinel DNA in the tomb is the lock. The symbols on the wall tell the scientists how to activate it. It's an instruction manual. The underground temples, what if they were bunkers? What was this secret religion hiding from? Or were they built underground to be closer to something, like this tomb? What if this tomb under the Vatican is the original Mithraeum, the one Mithras himself was buried in? This is a lot. It's a star god with non-human DNA, buried under the Vatican, and the Church has known about it for 80 years. Containing the truth. So let's just lay it all out. This tomb, with its pagan star maps and weird bull-slaying god, was found in the 1940s. But the DNA test? That just happened. That means for over 80 years, the Vatican knew about this pre-Christian, pagan, star-worshipping temple sitting directly under its most holy site. And they told no one. The entrance to this chamber was sealed off, put under a level of supervision that was frankly insane. This raises suspicions. And that's putting it lightly. Why hide it? Everyone's obsessed with the idea that the Roman Catholic Church suppressed the news. And why would they? Because it suggests a direct connection between its own origins and these older pre-Christian systems. Finding a secret Mithraic temple isn't just an "oh, that's neat" archaeological find. It's a challenge. It implies that maybe Christianity copied Mithraism. Think about it. Mithras was born on December 25th. He had 12 followers. He was a bringer of light. Sound familiar? It's a huge problem. Vatican officials, of course, have an answer for everything. They maintain that they were just protecting the holy and delicate site from damage. The whole necropolis is a fragile area, and any excavation has to be done carefully. They claim they weren't hiding information, they were just being responsible. But come on, 80 years? And why the total lockdown on this chamber while letting tourists visit other parts of the necropolis? What caused the time delays between the original find and the release of any reports? The church authorities officially state they didn't hide anything on purpose. But it's hard to overlook the significance of what was down there. And get this, let's talk about the modern day. This is where the conspiracy theories go from maybe to whoa. What most people don't realize is that the Vatican has its own very powerful astronomical observatory. It's called the VATT, the Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope. It's one of the most advanced in the world, with a major research center on a mountaintop in Arizona. The Vatican pours millions of dollars into watching the stars. The official reason is to do science and show that faith and science can work together. Fine, but in light of this discovery, it looks different. Is the church just doing astronomy, or are they watching? Are they looking for something? Or maybe are they watching for something to return? Remember the star map in the tomb? What if the VATT is pointed right at the constellation it depicts? And then there's the name. One of the key instruments on their telescope in Arizona is called LUCIFER. I am not making this up. It stands for Large Binocular Telescope Near Infrared Utility with Camera and Integral Field Unit for Extragalactic Research. A bit of a stretch, right? They had to know what that name would sound like. What if the Vatican is using it not to look for God, but to look for them? The beings related to the tomb Lucifer means light bringer. Mithras was a god of light. This is not a coincidence. It's a clue. This ties into one of the wildest Vatican theories ever, the chronovisor. This is a famous conspiracy. The idea is that a team of Vatican scientists in the 1950s, led by a priest named Father Ernetti, built a device, a chronovisor, a machine that can see into the past and future. The legend says they used it to watch the final days of Jesus. What if they also used it to look into the tomb? What if they turned it on, pointed it at tomb Theta, and saw the non-human being? Saw the star maps? Maybe they even saw it. Arrive. That would explain the 80-year secrecy. They've known it was alien all along. They've known it was a star god. They sealed it not to protect history, but to protect us. They were just waiting for a time when technology like DNA testing would advance so far that the secret couldn't be kept anymore. Maybe they allowed the leak to prepare humanity. Or the Shadow Curia theory. What if a secret group within the Vatican, not the Pope, but a hidden council, has been the true guardian of this tomb? They aren't a religious group, they are gatekeepers, protecting humanity from this secret. They've been passing the knowledge down for centuries, and they are the ones who just decided it's time. The truth is out, and it could mean the past is about to repeat itself. The unanswered questions. Okay, let's just talk down to earth for a second. This all sounds like a movie script. A sealed tomb, secret star maps, alien DNA, a global conspiracy, a chronovisor, a thing called Lucifer on a telescope. It's a lot. Did all this just happen overnight? The thing is, no. The Vatican sits on layers and layers of history. And the past, it refuses to stay buried. So are we missing a key detail? Is this all just a misunderstanding? Here's what we know for a fact. A pre-Christian tomb exists under the Vatican. That's 100% confirmed. The Mithric symbols, the bull slaying, the zodiacs, those are real, and they are in that tomb. The Vatican did keep this area under strict control for decades. That is also a fact. The new piece of the puzzle is the DNA test, and this is where it gets murky. The Vatican officially denies the result. They say degraded sample. The scientists who were supposedly on the team are silent. They vanished from the public eye. They are probably bound by non-disclosure agreements that would make your head spin. All we have is a leaked report. So we have to be smart. We have to take a step back and look at this with cold, hard logic. The implications here are too vast, too paradigm-shattering to just jump to conclusions. Is it possible the DNA was contaminated? Absolutely. It's the first thing any skeptical scientist would say. A single stray hair, a fleck of skin from an archaeologist, a contaminated lab sample. It's always possible. Lab protocols are strict, but they're not infallible, and a discovery this big would have everyone scrambling. Is it possible the non-terrestrial sequence is just a 1 in a billion mutation that science has never ever seen before? A human plus that just happened? A natural genetic roll of the dice so profound, so complex that it rewrites what we thought we knew about evolution? Maybe. Our planet is full of strange wonders and we are still mapping our own genome. It's plausible. But let's be honest, does that feel right? Does that explain the basalt tomb, the hidden location, the 2,000-year-old secrets? Or is it also possible, maybe even probable, that the simplest answer is the most terrifying one? That an ancient hidden faith, a cult obsessed with the stars and whispering of visitors from the heavens, wasn't just guessing? What if their myths weren't myths at all? What if their myths were memories? What if they actually had a reason for their beliefs, a reason they protected for millennia? This discovery, if it's true, if it's validated and peer-reviewed, it changes everything. It's not just about a forgotten chapter of history, it's about the entire book. It's about who we are, where we come from, and the chilling, earth-shattering fact that we might never have been alone. And this realization leads to the final, wildest theories. 1. The tomb is a beacon. Think about it. Why seal something so perfectly? Why in solid, non-porous basalt? Maybe it wasn't to keep us out. Maybe it was to keep it dormant, silent, contained. What if the tomb itself was a dead man's switch? For 2,000 years, it lay quiet, undisturbed. But now that it's open, now that the sentinel DNA has been cataloged, digitized, and read by our machines, it's awake. What if the very act of sequencing the DNA wasn't an act of discovery, but an act of transmission? What if we just unwittingly sent a signal across an unimaginable cosmic distance? A ping, we're here, we're ready message. Or maybe, we found your prisoner. What if the opening of the tomb wasn't an end to a mystery, it was the start of something, the beginning of a countdown? The clock is ticking. 2, the DNA is a cure or a weapon. This one focuses on the code itself, that extra DNA, that impossibly complex artificial-looking sequence. It's not junk, it's doing something. So what is its purpose? The optimistic view, it's the key to human evolution. A Rosetta Stone for our own biology. What if it holds the cure for all disease, the switch to stop aging, the instructions to make us, like them, stronger, smarter, immortal? Is that what the secret cabals, the Vatican, the shadow agencies are really after? Not just knowledge, but control over the next step of human evolution. But there's a flip side, a much, much darker one. What if it's the opposite? What if that code isn't a gift, it's a payload? What if it's a biological weapon of unimaginable power, a dormant virus? And the being in the tomb wasn't a god or a visitor, but the first patient zero, a failed experiment or a deliberate plague sealed away in solid basalt for our own protection, a cosmic Pandora's box. And we just let it out. And the last theory, this one is perhaps the most down-to-earth, but in many ways the most mind-bending. We are the aliens, or more accurately, we are the degraded. What if the DNA in that tomb isn't alien at all? What if it's our original DNA, the real uncorrupted human genome? And we, all 8 billion of us, are the ones who are less, degraded, broken. Think of it like a perfect original file, and we are just bad, corrupted copies. What if the being in the tomb is a pure human preserved in stasis from a time before, well, before what? Before some ancient world-ending catastrophe? Before a solar flare scrambled our very essence? Or, and this is the chilling part, before someone or something evolved us deliberately to make us weaker, more manageable, less of a threat? What if the legends of a golden age, of a time when man walked with gods, wasn't a myth? What if it was just a memory of when we were more? What if the Vatican's biggest secret isn't that aliens exist? What if the secret is that we are not who we think we are? That our entire recorded history is a lie, a cover-up for our own demotion, and the proof, the original blueprint, has been sleeping under our feet all this time? The tomb being opened is more than just an archaeological event. It's not about gold or pottery. It feels like a key turning in a lock we didn't even know existed. A message that's been waiting, silent in the dark, for 2,000 years. Waiting for us to be ready, or for us to make a mistake. And its meaning. Well, that's the part we're all still trying to figure out. It makes you wonder, what else is down there? What other secrets are just waiting to be unearthed? What do you think is really in that tomb? A forgotten god, a human experiment, or the first visitor? Let us know your theory in the comments. And if you want more mysteries uncovered, make sure to like and subscribe.